revealed. 7 spine-chilling motel secrets that lurking shadows still haunt. Emily clutched her son Tyler's hand tightly as they walked through the lobby of Whispering Pines Motel, the peeling wallpaper curling ominously at the edges like a withering leaf. The faint smell of mildew hit her like a wave, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the place was exhaling a long-held sigh of desperation. She had stumbled upon this rundown motel after losing her job at the local diner, and now it served as both refuge and prison. Curiosity tugged at her heart as she noticed the heavy, dust-covered antique furniture scattered about. A faded sign in a crooked frame read rooms available reasonable rates, but at that moment, the phrases felt like lies echoing from another time, another world. Tyler, innocent and wide-eyed, marveled at the flickering lights that danced like fireflies above, unaware of the unease enveloping his mother. Emily's mind raced as she recalled whispered stories of families who had checked in but never checked out. A knot twisted in her stomach. As night crept in, the motel transformed. A chorus of unsettling sounds filled the hall's low, ghostly whispers that fluttered against the walls like nervous moths. She strained to listen, wondering if it was just the wind or a haunting familiarity creeping into her thoughts. Tyler giggled nervously, pointing at shadows that shifted in the dim light, and Emily felt a chill crawl along her spine. The day had grown dark, but her worries felt heavy, a weight she couldn't shake off. Determined to ward off her building anxiety, Emily resolved to explore the town. She ventured to the only cafe in Willow Creek, where a cluster of locals sat chatting with forced cheerfulness. The conversations were fragmented, touched by an air of shared trauma. A woman across the table recounted how her grandmother had vanished from the very motel Emily now called home. Another man shared how his brother had gone mad after a night spent there. Emily felt a lump in her throat, realizing they were all entwined in this web of unease, each haunted by echoes of the past. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As Emily returned to the motel, the community buzzed with stories. She gathered the locals for a meeting. It felt like shoving a match into dry kindling. With their histories now tangled, they recounted moments of fear, drawing each other's eyes wide with recognition. But as the talk intensified, a figure loomed quietly in the shadows. The air thickened, like fog packing in just before dawn. Then, a voice trembling with fear broke the moment, declaring the shadows thrived on their hidden fears. Emily felt hope flicker amidst the despair. They could defeat the darkness together. But in an instant, her heart thudded painfully as Tyler slipped from her grasp, vanished into the blackened corners of the motel. A scream echoed through the night, vibrating in Emily's bones. The town stood still, fueled by fear and desperation, as all eyes turned toward her, as if they awaited the clash between light and shadow, and the one who would either face it or fall victim to it all. What unseen force was drawing her son deeper into its depths? Everything hung by a thread, and the battle against the lurking shadows was just beginning. Emily's breath hitched in her throat, the night air suddenly feeling suffocating. She darted toward the darkness, heart pounding like a drum. "Tyler!" she cried out, her voice hoarse and wild as panic wrapped around her like barbed wire. The shadows danced, menacingly shifting with every flicker of the dim overhead lights. The other motel residents stood frozen, eyes wide with horror and confusion. Whispers flitted among them, rising like a storm. What happened? Where did he go? Emily! One local, a middle-aged man named Jack, stepped forward, his expression twisted with concern. "Don't go in there alone. We need to stick together." But Emily couldn't hear him. All that mattered was finding her son. She plunged into the hallway, the flickering light casting eerie shapes against the cracked walls. "Tyler!" Her voice echoed back at her, taunting and hollow. The air grew colder, each step heavy with dread. She paused at the end of the hallway, where a door stood ajar, creaking ever so slightly. A low thrum of something unsettling pulsed from within. It was as if the building itself was breathing. Alive with trembling hands, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was dark, shrouded in shadows that felt alive. Emily could barely make out the outline of furniture, old and rotting, but the most chilling sight was the tattered curtains swaying gently, as though beckoning her further into the gloom. "Tyler," she called again, fear clawing at her insides. Then, a small voice emerged from the darkness, barely a whisper. "Mom, I'm scared." Relief and dread surged through her simultaneously. She rushed further into the room, her eyes searching frantically for him. "Where are you, baby? Where are you?" "Over here." His voice was muffled, coming from the far corner, and Emily felt a flicker of hope surge within her as she moved closer. But when she rounded the furniture, her heart sank. The corner was empty, and the room was colder than before. Suddenly, as if mocking her desperation, the curtains billowed violently, slamming against the walls. A chill crawled up her back, tightening her chest. Dark shapes began to swirl in the corners, drawing in her every thought like a vortex. "Tyler?" she whispered, panic clawing at her throat. "Stay where you are." Then came a sound, a soft giggle, innocent and sweet, slicing through the fear and echoing from another room. Instinctively, she turned, racing to the door that led back into the hallway. But as she stepped out, the atmosphere had changed. The weight of the air felt thick and oppressive. The motel's residents were still gathered, now shifting anxiously. Jack approached, his brow furrowed. "What did you find?" "Nothing," she spat, her voice rising, almost frantic. He's here somewhere." But even as she spoke, a dark haze clung to her mind, threatening to drown her in fear. "Listen, Emily," Jack said, his tone urgent. "We need to leave. Now. There's something wrong with this place. We can't let it take anyone else." But as Emily looked around at the concerned faces, doubt surged. Who would leave without Tyler? "We can't give up on him," she shouted, desperation lacing her words. Just then, the once silent lobby erupted in chaos. Lights began to flicker violently, and shadows whipped around them like furious winds. "Get out!" someone screamed, and panic swept through the group. As the clamor rose, Emily's gaze darted back toward the hallway, her heart pounding with visceral urgency. Then an unearthly scream pierced through the noise, exploding from somewhere within the belly of the motel, a sound so deep and primal it felt as if it were tearing apart the very fabric of reality. Fear locked Emily in place. What had she done to stir whatever darkness lurked within these walls? Suddenly, the lights went out, leaving only the dim moonlight bleeding through the window. The shadows surged forth, pulling with them something dark and malignant. In that instant, Emily realized she had to make a choice. Would she flee into the safety of the night, or face the depths of horror that awaited her? Time stood still as her decision hung in the air, like the breath before a storm. What would she uncover when she delved deeper into the motel's haunted heart? The shadows whispered, beckoning. Would she dare to follow? Emily's body trembled as the shadows loomed larger, weaving through the dim light until they took on the shape of long, spindly fingers reaching for her. The icy air pressed against her skin, a warning to turn away, to run. But the echo of Tyler's voice, soft yet terrified, pulled her forward, a tether she couldn't cut. "Tyler." She fought against the grip of fear, forcing herself down the hallway. Her legs felt heavy, as if the very floor were trying to hold her back. She swallowed hard, steeling herself against the dark. "I'm coming." The other residents backpedaled, eyes reflecting the chaos. Jack's shouted encouragement was swallowed by the overwhelming noise, replaced by another scream echoing through the building. This one was higher, shrill, and filled with raw terror. A woman stumbled out of her room, her hair disheveled, eyes wide with insanity. "We have to get out. It's coming for us. It knows our names." Emily's heart raced faster. She focused on the slivers of moonlight filtering through the walls, knowing they would guide her. She had to find Tyler before they vanished completely into the dark. Ignoring the cries of the others, she turned back, determined. The shadows pulsed like a heartbeat, hungry and restless. She recalled the harmless giggle. Could it be him? Was he playing a sick game? She dashed toward the room again, the air thickening with every step. Tyler. Pushing the door open forcefully, she stepped inside again, the oppressive silence licking at her nerves. Where are you? She hesitated, sensing an unseen presence swirling around her. The curtains flapped like spectral wings, and cold fingers of wind wrapped around her ankles. But something shifted in the corner of her eye. A shadow moved, darting toward a closet nestled against the far wall. Emily rushed forward, her breath coming in ragged gasps, praying, pleading, "Tyler, please, I need you to come out." As she reached the closet, the handle turned swiftly before she could grasp it, flinging open to reveal nothing. She froze, her heart thumping in her chest as if it were the drum heralding her doom. Then, a soft thud sounded behind her. Emily spun around, fear plastered on her face. The room felt alive with dark whispers, and the air crackled with energy. She glimpsed movement on the edges of her vision, dark shapes swirling faster now, forming into a dense cloud. Without thinking, she lunged toward the doorway, but the air slammed against her, as if the shadows had become a wall. "Let me out," she screamed, the sound caught in her throat. Panic set in as the darkness stretched, a shape solidifying before her. "Tyler?" Her voice was a mere whimper. The figure stepped forward, a small boy, but not Tyler. It had his face, yet its eyes sparked with an otherworldly gleam. "Mommy, I've been waiting." Emily stumbled back, heart racing, as she realized the figure was not her son. This entity had come from her deepest fears, twisted into a mockery of innocence. It raised its hands, palms open, as if to invite her closer. "Tyler," she screamed, tearing her gaze from the specter and trying to catch her breath. The walls felt like they were closing in on her, thickening with every flash of terror. "I won't let you take him." Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, and she heard the unmistakable sound of her son's laugh echoing through the hall. It was real, alive. It wrapped around her like a lifeline, urging her to find him. But just as quickly as the moments of vision had returned, the lights dimmed again, plunging her back into darkness. "Help me!" a hoarse voice cried, far away but so familiar. The shadows roared to life, and she knew she couldn't let them win. With a primal scream, Emily charged past the shadowy figure, her heart pushing her forward. She had to find Tyler, and she wouldn't stop for anything, not even the specters that lurked behind her. But time was slipping away, and the air grew heavier with each passing second. What awaited her beyond the next turn? What darkness stretched still deeper within the motel? Each thundering heartbeat echoed through the silence, whispering one undeniable truth. She was out of time. The voice called out again, and Emily felt the walls pulse with malevolent energy. Whatever hunted in the shadows was growing impatient. Her next choice could seal their fate. Would she confront the unknown or succumb to terror waiting in the darkness? The motel held secrets, and those secrets hungered for her. Would she uncover the truth before it consumed her? The choice loomed large as she clawed through the murky veil of shadow. Emily barreled down the hall, each footfall a desperate plea for her son's safety. The screams of the other residents faded into the background, replaced by the sharp clang of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. "Stay with me, Tyler," she whispered, gripping the key to hope tightly in her fist. Turning the corner, she paused, breathing heavily. The overwhelming dread choked her, but she couldn't afford to lose faith. Beyond the dim light just ahead, she could see the outline of an open door. Her spine tingled at the icy draft that whipped past her. As she approached, she caught glimpses of the once familiar decor inside, a reminder of brighter days now cast in shadows. "Tyler?" she called again, her voice trembling not just with fear, but with a mother's raw determination. The silence was her only answer, and it sent shivers crawling up her spine. The door creaked as she pushed it further, revealing a room heavy with darkness. It felt like stepping into a different world, where time was warped, where nightmares had taken root. Sudden movement caught her eye. A flicker of light resembling a candle peeked out from the far corner of the room. She moved towards it, hesitant yet drawn. As she stepped closer, the light shimmered, revealing what looked like a child's drawing, hastily sketched on the wall. It depicted her and Tyler, hand in hand, running from something monstrous. What does this mean? Her voice broke the hush, the weight of its implications resting heavily on her shoulders. Were those drawings echoes of what could happen? Were warnings? Just as her heart started to race, a chill wrapped around her ankles like chains. Emily, a faint, trembling voice whispered from behind her. She spun around, breathless. The shadows trembled as a figure emerged from the engulfing darkness. It was a woman, her face obscured but unmistakably familiar. Emily's heart dropped. "Mom?" she whispered. But before she could process the face of the ghostly silhouette, the woman leaned closer, eyes wide and empty. "You have to run, Emily. It's not safe here. You cannot trust what you see." "Where is Tyler?" she asked, pressing deeper into the shadows, desperate to understand. I can't tell you." The woman shuddered, looking up as if sensing an impending storm. "You must find the truth hidden here before it finds you." The dread wrapped around Emily's throat, squeezing until she could barely breathe. What truth? In the basement there's a door that shouldn't be opened. It hides what they fear most, what they do to keep it concealed. It's not just the shadows. They want your son. Emily, heart pounding, felt the room shift, as a low growl echoed through the air. The oppressive shadows seemed to tighten, coiling around her like a serpent. "No! Stay away!" she shouted, willing the fear itself to retreat. The figure flickered, then began to dissolve into the darkness. "You must hurry!" Her mother's voice echoed faintly before vanishing completely. The walls constricted, and Emily felt a jolt of resolve burn within her. She had to reach Tyler before it was too late. But where was the basement? With a swift turn, she charged back into the hallway, the air thickening with an unsettling energy. She scanned the walls, searching for a sign, a hint. Suddenly, her eyes caught something at the end, a small door, half hidden behind faded wallpaper, just daring to be found. The wailing cries of other residents flared from deep within the motel, their voices wrapping around her like a warning. Even from the distance, she could hear the frantic banging as if someone was trying to break free. What had she awakened? "Tyler," she called desperately, sprinting toward the door. The shadows surged, crawling up her legs, but she pushed forward, forcing herself to believe in the light at the end. "Hold on. I'm coming." As she reached the door and turned the handle, the tremors of fear gripping her intensified. What awaited her beyond the threshold? Would she be met with the answers or plunge deeper into the nightmare? With the door creaking open, she felt a breath of cold air rush past her, whispering like a promise or a threat. The darkness writhed, and her heart raced. What secrets waited in the basement, and how long could she keep the shadows at bay? Emily stepped inside, bracing herself against the unknown, ready to confront whatever lurked in the depths of her fears. The darkness enveloped Emily as she stepped into the basement, the wooden door creaking ominously behind her. The cold air brushed against her skin, igniting goosebumps along her arms. She squinted, trying to discern shapes in the heavy gloom. Walls, damp and cracked, whispered stories of despair, as shadows danced maliciously at the corners of her vision. "Tyler, where are you?" she called out, her voice trembling, barely echoing in the vast stillness. The silence screamed back, palpable and suffocating. She took a tentative step forward, the floorboards creaking underfoot. Her heart raced as she moved deeper, her instincts sharpening. There had to be something here, something vital. She remembered her mother's warning. A door she shouldn't open. But where was it? The air felt thick, buzzing with a palpable energy that hinted at the secrets festering in the dark. Suddenly, she heard it, a faint whimper, like that of a lost child. The sound pulled her in, drawing her towards a half-hidden corner of the basement where the shadows merged. "Tyler?" she whispered, clenching her fists, a knot of panic tightening in her stomach. Another whimper sounded, this time more desperate. Emily darted toward it, her breath catching in her throat. She could feel her pulse hammering as she approached what appeared to be a metal door, rusted and aged, tucked away under a tangle of boxes and forgotten memories. A chill of foreboding washed over her. What is behind this door? She muttered to herself, shaking off a wave of dread. Just before reaching it, something out of the corner of her eye flickered an image, a shadow morphing into a figure. But when she turned, nothing was there. As she knelt before the door, she could see it was slightly ajar. A thin strip of darkness spilling outwards, pulling her in like a gravitational force. The air felt heavy, pushing against her chest, threatening to smother her resolve. "Tyler," she called again, voice laced with urgency. It was now or never. She pushed the door open wider, her heart pounding in reckless anticipation. What met her eyes sent her heart plummeting into despair. The room beyond was damp and dark, littered with shredded papers, broken toys, and remnants of disturbed lives. And amongst the wreckage was something far worse, a shadowy figure huddled in the corner, shrouded in darkness, shaking. "No," she gasped, recognizing the silhouette. "Tyler." She rushed forward, but before she could reach him, the air shifted violently, an unseen force threatened to thwart her every step. Images flickered in her mind, memories of laughter and safety, extinguished by the terror now looming over her. "Don't you dare take him," she screamed, defiance fueling her movement. The figure looked up, eyes wide with fear, and for a brief moment, the chaos stilled. Tyler's voice broke through the heavy silence, crying, "Mom, help me." But then the shadows deepened, swirling with menacing intent. "No, stay away from him," Emily shouted with every ounce of strength she could muster. She reached out, desperate, trying to bridge the distance between them. But something was pulling her back, a force rooted in the darkness. Panic surged through her, realizing she had to break this hold. As she struggled, memories flooded her, the warmth of her son's hand in hers, the sound of his laughter. She couldn't give in. With a fierce cry, Emily grasped the edges of the doorframe and yanked herself forward, pushing against the darkness with all her might. "I will protect you, Tyler. We're leaving this place." Just as she launched towards her son, the air erupted with a shattering roar, and the shadows writhed in protest. In that instant, she felt the ground beneath her tremble, as though the very foundation of the house was beginning to unravel. What awaited her? Would they burst free of this nightmare or be swallowed whole by the shadowy malevolence lurking in the depths? Before she could grasp the answer, the darkness surged, pulling her into its heart, and for a heartbeat, all was lost. Darkness swallowed her whole, echoing with every scream, every whispered promise of safety until nothing remained. What lay beyond that veil of shadows? And would Emily's love be enough to pierce through this nightmare? The searing cold enveloped Emily, a stark contrast to the warmth she had hoped to recover. She felt like she was being stretched, pulled apart by the dark. But then, slowly, the weight of pressure began to ease. The darkness quivered and flickered, and Emily fought to open her eyes. What lay before her was worse than the shadows. They coiled and twisted, revealing a scene she could hardly comprehend. She stood in a room, lit by pale, sickly light, walls lined with photographs, faces of people she had never met, each one captured in fear. Their eyes bore into her, pleading silently from the faded memories trapped within the frames. "Tyler," she shouted, adrenaline spiking through her veins. Ignoring the pull of tendrils wrapping around her, she surged forward, but her body felt leaden, as if the air had thickened into a suffocating fog. The photos seemed to laugh at her struggle, the faces twisting grotesquely, taunting her with the agony of time lost. An echo of Tyler's voice came again, softer this time. "Mom," it came from somewhere deep in the shadows. She strained to hear, clenching her fists. "I'm here, sweetheart," she called, her voice breaking with desperation. Her surroundings rippled and warped, the photos flashing like a strobe light. Each time they flickered, Emily swore she saw hazy figures moving just at the edge of her vision, a parade of the lost, souls trapped in this torment, woven into the fabric of shadows that locked her in place. She turned back to the door, but what had been a reliable escape now seemed to shimmer and fade. The frame contorted, becoming a portal to something else, more darkness, more screams. She attempted to reach it, but icy tendrils snapped at her like whips, tugging her back into a corner. "Help me!" Tyler's voice echoed louder now, rising above the oppressive whispers. Her heart clenched. She couldn't let her son's voice be swallowed whole by this abyss. She glanced at the photographs again. A thought occurred to her: could they be the key? As she stepped closer, she noticed one of the frames was askew. There was a peculiar shimmer about it, as though reality was bleeding through the edges. The name scrawled beneath it sent chills racing down her spine. Louise Cartwright. Emily felt the sting of recognition. The name reverberated in her memories, from stories whispered in quiet tones. But now, the name was just another echo in the room filled with ghosts, each frame clamoring for her attention. "Louise," she whispered, swallowing a sob. "What happened to you?" The remaining shadows thickened, pressing close as if reacting to her voice. It was then she realized these photographs weren't just trapped memories. They were warnings. They had been lured here just like her. "Mom, please!" Tyler's cry cut through the fog once more, pulling her focus back to the darkness curling in the corner of the room. "Tyler, I'm coming!" Emily screamed, but the darkness hissed back, rushing at her, enveloping her as if daring her to step closer. She could feel the cold tightening around her bones, but she shoved fear aside, her determination igniting in her chest with renewed strength. She lunged toward the photographs, grappling one tightly in her hands. In that moment, she made a desperate wish, a prayer for the lost, her voice breaking with raw emotion. "I want to leave you behind. You're coming home with me." The room trembled as if responding to her vow. The faces in the photographs contorted, a collective gasp rising among them, and a sudden surge of warmth spread through Emily. Yet as the shadows recoiled, she could hear Tyler's cries mixing with furious growls of the darkness, and her resolve wavered for a heartbeat. But she had allowed too many to suffer before. "No more!" she roared, turning her body toward the darkness yet again, steeling herself. Suddenly, the air erupted with a shattering roar, the shadows convulsing violently. Faces turned black and threatening, but Emily clung to the warmth radiating from the photos. And in that final moment, she saw Tyler, reaching towards her through the veil. Just as she leaped forward, the shadows unleashed a terrible scream that shook the very foundation they stood on. What would they endure next? Would they find the light, or be consumed by the darkness that threatened to engulf everything around them? As the room trembled, one urgent question remained. Was the strength of a mother's love enough to break the shackles of despair? Emily plunged into the shadows, fighting against their icy grip. The moment her fingers brushed the photograph depicting Louise Cartwright, a surge of electricity shot through her. It flowed down her spine, fizzling with a warmth that felt strangely alive amidst the chaos. Did hope really reside within these cracked, haunted frames? "Mom!" Tyler's cry shattered her focus. The shadows squirmed, whispering dread and despair. She tore her gaze from the photograph and shot it back towards the darkness, which now distorted into monstrous shapes, a swirling mass of anguish and rage. "Just hold on," she yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos, desperate and defiant. She could feel the walls closing in, but she couldn't lose him, not when she was so close. The warmth spread from her fingertips to her palms as it traced through her body, intertwining with her undying love for her son. The floor vibrated violently as if the darkness itself was trembling in panic. She pressed her hands firmly around the frame, feeling the cool glass against her skin, the engraved words searing into her mind. The photographs pulsated with energy, each heartbeat thrumming a rhythm of entrapment and desperation. "Emily!" A voice, distant yet rich with familiarity, called from within the darkness. It sliced through the tempest, momentarily quieting the chaos. "Emily, remember me." It came again, echoing with an urgency that made the air thick. That he was not one of the trapped. He was someone lost, yet not forgotten. "Dad?" The breath escaped her lips, raw with disbelief. "Find the truth, Emily," he urged, his voice shrouded in a fog of sorrow. "Break the cycle," he continued, the words like thunder rolling through her core. Images of her father flooded her mind, long talks on winter nights, laughter enveloped in love, and sudden moments tainted with anguish when he had to leave. It all started to click. Tyler's voice rang out again, fierce and demanding, "Mom, now!" Driven by both fear and the disembodied presence of her father, Emily steeled herself once again. She faced the encroaching shadows that snarled and twisted like wounded animals. She tightened her grip, twisting the photograph forward, as if presenting it like a shield. Suddenly, the room cracked wide open, and Emily stumbled into a new space. Just like that, she was thrown into a void of brilliant light. In that blinding brilliance, she felt weightless, liberated momentarily from the hellish chains of darkness. But the light warped, revealing fractured images splintering at the edges, flickers of all the faces in the photos now dancing and screaming in despair. They all seemed to be reaching out, begging, yearning for release. "No more," she shouted. "No more suffering." She understood now. They were not just memories. They were also anchors. She turned, her heart racing, as shadows clawed at her legs, pulling her back towards oblivion. "I'll bring all of you home," she screamed defiantly, grasping the photograph of Louise Cartwright tightly once more. With every ounce of strength, she lifted it high, letting her tears mingle with the heat of her defiance. Light burst forth, igniting like a raging fire in the darkness, as figures emerged from the shadows, crying and reaching, bursting into a kaleidoscope of light and color. And in that moment, she saw the faces from the photographs no longer twisted with fear, but clear and resolute. But just as the tide turned, and she felt the warmth of hope enveloping her, the shadows screamed. They reared back, pain laced through every shriek. Something in the void shifted, and from the depths, a sinister figure emerged, undefined but distinctly aware of Emily's challenge. "Foolish girl," it cackled, deep and throaty, "you think you can simply walk away?" Emily's heart raced as the monstrous shadow grinned, a darkness swathed in malignant triumph. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." With the light threatening to fade, Emily knew she was faced with her final test. Would she confront the being that fed on her fears, or would it consume her and her son altogether? As the grasp of the darkness clawed at her once more, one question echoed in her mind: did she truly hold the power to turn the tides, or would her courage be the very thing that led to their doom? Emily stood at the precipice of an unknown fate, heart racing as she faced the looming figure cloaked in shadow. The very air felt thick and suffocating, weighed down by the presence of the darkness, as if it were alive and hungry. The shadows writhed around her, angry, insisting that she surrender to despair. "Release them," she shouted, standing her ground, fear igniting a fire within her. She could feel Tyler's presence still tethered to her, even if they were sepulchered in this hellish landscape. The creature's laugh reverberated inside her skull, a chilling melody that echoed of everything she had lost. "Release? They are not yours to save, little girl," it teased, voice slithering like a serpent through the darkness. The faces of the trapped flickered behind it, their desperate eyes frozen in time. "No, I won't let you toy with them," Emily yelled, clutching the photograph of Louise Cartwright more tightly. The warmth radiating from it pushed back against the cold grip of despair that threatened to drag her under. "You're just a wretched reflection of fear, a nightmare trapped in your own malice." The shadow slithered closer, its form shifting and rippling like smoke. "You feel so brave, yet you don't know the cost of truth," it hissed, and for a split second, Emily felt a pang of doubt. What if you succeed and unleash worse horrors? "No," she shouted back, nearly breathless. "I refuse to believe that fear has to hold me down. I will break this cycle." Suddenly, a surge of energy thrummed through the air. The photograph glowed brighter in her hands, illuminating the space around her. The cries of those trapped intensified, a cacophony of anguish that clawed at her heart. And what if your precious truth is merely fiction? The figure taunted, its voice dripping with disdain. What if your strength is a deception orchestrated by your mind to comfort you? Emily felt a crack forming in her resolve, fingers trembling as the shadows clawed at the edges of her vision. But she took a deep breath, grounding herself in the love for her son. I am not powerless. I won't let you manipulate me anymore. Each word ignited an ember in her chest, pushing back against the shadows that danced threateningly around her. The flash of light burst anew from the photograph, cascading through the darkness like a sun breaking through storm clouds. Emily lifted it higher, fighting against the darkness. The warmth of belief curled through her like a lifeline. With determination, she shouted, Tyler, I'm here. You're not alone. In that moment, she felt a bond stronger than her fear, a heartbeat echoed in tandem with hers. Time seemed to pause as shadows lessened their grip, swirling instead like wind shifting against her command. Foolish girl, the darkness hissed, but there was an edge of uncertainty now, a crack in its confidence. You think your love can triumph over the dark? Just then, the shadows wavered, weakening before her fierce resolve. Each pulse of light from the photograph revealed glimpses of lives once tethered to the darkness, lives now filled with hope. Suddenly, a hand appeared through the murky void, reaching for her, and she recognized it as Tyler's mom. He cried, his voice ringing with clarity. Take my hand, baby, Emily screamed, stretching towards him. The moment their fingers touched, another surge of energy exploded through the realm, shaking everything around them, walls, shadows, and all. But as they grasped each other, a furious roar echoed throughout the void. The malevolent figure lunged, its jagged edges clawing at the light as it retaliated against the bond they created. No, Emily gasped, panic filling her as Tyler's grip felt like a fragile thread about to snap. We won't let it take us. We can fight, he shouted, voice fierce, filled with eerie adrenaline. In that united moment, as the darkness reared its monstrous form, Emily realized something profound. The true battle was not just against the shadows but within themselves. Would they embrace the light and face what lay ahead together, or let fear consume them whole? With courage ignited, she locked eyes with Tyler, knowing that their fate hung by a thread. Together, they yelled, pushing back against the darkness that threatened to consume them. And just then, another shadow broke free, slipping out of the night, a figure, familiar yet terrifying, slipping ever closer. This one seemed more solid, more alive. And she remembered him all too well. Was it a savior or another embodiment of the darkness that threatened to devour them all? Emily, the figure spoke, voice ironclad and chilling. Did you really think you could escape? The truth lurked just out of reach, balancing between hope and the final horror. Would she have the strength to unearth it? The familiar voice sent icy tendrils of fear slithering down Emily's spine. She had buried the memory of Nathan long ago, but there he stood, twisted and contorted beyond her comprehension, staring at her with cold, piercing eyes that mirrored the abyss itself. Why are you here? She rasped, straining to maintain her grip on the warmth of Tyler's presence. The photograph flickered in her grasp, struggling to push back against the shadows encroaching from all sides. Did you really think you could save them? They were never yours to rescue, Nathan taunted, his voice a cruel echo of the past, slicing through her determination like a jagged blade. Stay away from us, Tyler screamed, pulling Emily closer. But Nathan's visage only laughed, a sound devoid of humanity. Shadows twisted around Nathan's form, merging with the darkness surrounding them, a twisted dance of malice. Your precious bond is built on lies. Those you cling to are merely fleeting fragments of a reality you can't grasp. He sneered, taking a step forward, and the ground beneath them trembled. Stop it, Emily shouted, squeezing Tyler's hand, drawing strength from their connection. You're not real. You're just a figment of this nightmare. Am I, Emily? Or am I the truth you don't want to face? You're trapped in a web of your own making, Nathan hissed, his smile widening as shadows pulsated with a life of their own. They stretched, reaching toward her like skeletal fingers dancing in the gloom. "We want to let you take him," Emily responded, her voice a desperate warrior-esque cry. The photograph ignited once more, a beacon of light pushing back against the encroaching darkness. She focused on the faces of all the lost souls swarming around them, drawing strength from their agony. "I will break this cycle." But Nathan's laughter echoed around them, sending shivers through her resolve. "You think inserting a little light will banish me? The darkness is a part of you, as real as Tyler's heart beats in your chest." Tyler looked up at her, fear unmistakable in his eyes, but determination glimmered in his voice. "I believe in you, Mom. We can do this." Emily felt the weight of his belief anchor her. Their hands tightened, and together they summoned the warmth radiating from the photograph. The shadows recoiled slightly, a flicker of uncertainty sparking in Nathan's unyielding stance. "Your love can't withstand the truth forever," he warned, his expression darkening as the air thickened again with despair. "What happens when you learn that those you love are tainted with the shadows? What then?" "No," Emily shouted, drawing on every ounce of courage left. "Love is our strength. You can't take that from us." In that moment, the void shattered with a brilliant light. Emily felt the earth tremble beneath her, the walls of darkness collapsing in the wake of their unity. Nathan faltered, shadows retreating from the advancing light. Just as hope began to swell within her, a harsh realization clawed at the edges of her mind. What if he's right? What if there's worse to come? "No." Tyler's voice cut through her doubt like a hot knife. "We can't let fear control us." Then it happened. A piercing scream erupted from the depths of the dark, as if the darkness itself was in agony. Emily's heart raced, time expanding as every face in the darkness screamed in terror. "Mom is collapsing," Tyler yelled, panic seeping back into his voice. The shadows twisted violently, swelling, and morphing into something grotesque and maleficent. And Emily realized they had only scratched the surface. The real truth lay beneath layers of fear, waiting to be unleashed if they didn't escape now. With a strength they hadn't known they possessed, they turned from Nathan, propelled by the horror boiling up behind them. "We have to go," she cried. Together, they leaped into the light, feeling a pull like a freight train. Yet the darkness roared around them, angry at their defiance. Just as the light enveloped them, a chilling voice taunted from the void, "You can run, but you cannot hide from your true selves." Then the world exploded into blinding brightness. As the last remnants of darkness faded into echoes, Emily braced herself for whatever awaited them. Had they truly escaped, or had they merely exchanged one nightmare for another? The silence that followed felt heavy, pregnant with unspoken truths. And somewhere deep inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Emily emerged into the light, gasping, her lungs filled with the crispness of air outside the shadows. She instinctively pulled Tyler close, wrapping her arms tight around him, feeling the warmth and life radiate from his tiny body. The basement was gone, the dark shadows that threatened to consume them replaced with a luminescent glow that felt almost healing. Around them, the remnants of the motel flickered like dying stars, the air crisp and fresh as if washed clean by their confrontation with darkness. Laughter bubbled up from Tyler, innocent and bright, ringing like a bell in the silence. "Mom, we did it. We're free." Emily beamed, tears streaming down her cheeks. But with overwhelming relief came a sharp pang of sorrow. "Are we really safe?" she whispered, holding him tighter. Doubt rippled through her, lingering memories of shadows threatening to swallow them still fresh in her mind. "It's just us now," he assured, reaching up to wipe her tears. "We can go anywhere." That was it. Their strength lay in their togetherness, in the bond that even the deepest shadows could not sever. The memories of the lost souls might never fade. Yet in this moment, Emily felt the warmth of their love surviving in her heart, each one a life intertwined in her own. Suddenly, she understood. She carried them within her, their cries for freedom resonating within her spirit. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the scene in hues of orange and gold, lighting up the worn sign that read Whispering Pines, which hadn't looked so sinister under the twilight. The townsfolk began emerging from their homes, faces painted with disbelief and relief, wondering if the shadows had truly lifted. Jack stepped to the forefront, wide-eyed. "Emily, you made it." We heard the scream, but didn't know what he trailed off, eyes brimming with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without Tyler," she replied, ruffling her son's hair, feeling strength course through her veins. "Together we broke the cycle." She looked around, soaking in the reality that had once felt hopeless. "We can move forward as a community. We can help each other." Nods rippled through the gathering crowd, faces marked by stories yet untold. Families exchanged glances, connecting, weaving a strengthened web of support where isolation had allowed darkness to spread. The unifying force of shared experience surged forth, igniting renewed hope as the sun dipped below the horizon. Emily turned to Tyler, who stood gazing wide-eyed at the new world unfolding. She whispered, "Hold on to this day, sweetheart. No matter what, we will cherish the light." They began to walk towards the edge of Willow Creek, hands entwined, footsteps echoing against the pavement. With dusk settling in, and the stars emerging overhead, a quiet warmth wrapped around them, reassuring them that they had triumphed over horror, leaving behind the darkness of Whispering Pines. There was still work to be done. The road ahead remained uncertain, but they would face it all, hand in hand. And then, Emily felt the shadows retreating into the corners of memory, fading echoes of a nightmare now carried as their strength. The glow of the town welcomed them, bright and full of spirit. This was their new beginning as they turned down a narrow path leading to fresh possibilities. Emily took a deep, grounding breath, feeling hope surge through her as the weight lifted from her chest. "We're gonna help everyone, Tyler. We're gonna make this place safe together." And hand in hand, under the expansive sky, they strode forward, past the remnants of what once haunted them. The darkness that threatened to consume them had been transformed into something reborn, a chance at healing, a promise to those lost, and an unwavering bond woven from the strongest thread. Love. As the last rays of sunlight slipped away, Emily whispered a prayer of gratitude to the stars, promising never to forget. The past would always remain part of them, but it wouldn't define them. They were now freed, ready to embrace life anew. So don't wait. Do something amazing today. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive story that will touch your heart in unimaginable ways. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more amazing fans like you. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and what you loved most about Emily's journey. And of course, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this life-affirming conclusion. Because you are part of this community, and your support makes all the difference. Let's spread this love far and wide together.